To this regular meeting of the Montoursville Area School District Board of Directors on this Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 at 7:12 p.m. At this time, ask the Board Secretary to take a roll.
Mr. Albert, everything's on phone. Mr. Albert, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Badger?
Here.
Dr. Beery? Here. Dr. LaCroix?
Here.
Dr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Schimmel?
Here.
Mr. Snell?
Here.
Mr. Ulmer?
Here.
And Mr. Young?
Here. I would invite everybody to rise and join me in the salute of the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1B, I do not believe there's any recognitions or presentations this evening. Item 1C, student representatives. What do you have for us tonight?
Half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 7.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't really have much except for the academic decathlon team will be meeting tomorrow. And they will be hosting a whole bunch of different tools here. It will be a massive event. Yeah, and then mock trial will be competing in the couple of competitions for the next few weeks. And I'll keep you guys updated on all of that.
Thank you for that, Zach. Board will move on now to the reading of the minutes and approval of the December 7th organizational meeting minutes and the December 7th regular meeting minutes. Are there any corrections that need noted or everything look fine? Okay.
Mr. Schimmel.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Right. Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's a question I have on the regular board meeting. Under G6, it says, Mrs. Smith said that there's something prepared and will be discussed at the next administration meeting, and that has to do with the cost that we are charging for facilities rental when there's a cost to participants. I'd like to know if that was discussed and what became of it.
Well, you said that was in the regular meeting last month. Did I hear you right?
Yes.
Okay. Brandy has information for us on that.
It was presented to administrators at the last administrators meeting that we were in, and our next administrative meeting is tomorrow, and there will be follow-up on it tomorrow.
So what was discussed?
What I had proposed to them and gave to them for the raise.
Did you anticipate we'll see that at the work session or the next regular meeting?
It's an administrative regulation, so I'm not sure how that will be handled.
Okay, then superintendent can
It's not a
provide.
policy.
So she can provide that in a report, I guess. Okay, all right, very good. Right.
I just have a correction to the organizational committee meeting minutes. Under meeting place, time, and date, that had us meeting in the conference room, and we're meeting live. Just for the minutes.
Which page is that on?
This one, page 3. It's organizational.
Okay, so make that correction to the organizational meeting minutes. All right, with that correction, then, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended, say aye.
I don't have a motion or a second.
Speak up.
Motion to approve.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I don't believe we have any prior presentations, so now we'll move on to section 4 of the agenda, with the public comment on agenda items, and we afford the public 3 minutes per person, with one unpaused 3-minute time frame to speak to us about any items related to the district, matters of concern, official action in the past, action that we could be deliberating and acting on tonight. So anything along those lines, we invite the public to come forward and speak your mind.
Jack Callahan, 113 North Street, Montoursville, and I'm glad you're back. And
I'm glad you're back, Jack.
okay. And I'd like to mention the farm show. We do very well down there, and it hasn't been brought up. I don't know if it's been brought up in the past or anything else. It's usually the first week in January, and it's usually the coldest. And I've worked in Harrisburg for 25 years, and I know what's up. And you know, I think we should showcase our farmers as to what they do in Pennsylvania. And also, I wanted to talk about Noah Kirby. He's a boy in 6th grade at, I don't know, middle school. And that in baseball season, he went out to, he won here, the home run. He won out Kansas City, came back here, and finished third in the United States for hitting home runs, and it was on TV. He was well represented by his teammates. League president did, Scott Metzger did everything, publicized it. Yeah, I'll refrain and say that, I don't know if the people can hear me or not. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, and so this Noah Kirby, I think he should deserve something. I mean, it's not like American Idol or anything, but it's almost. And he represented the Montoursville School District very well. And then there's 2 other boys, a Wilson boy and a Schmary boy. They finished second in Pennsylvania in the bass contest and went down to Tennessee, competed down there, but they didn't win anything down there. There's 2 other boys. I used to ride the bus frequently, and I used to see them down Broad Street going down to the river to fish. They're still fishing. So, and then I'd like to say the Veterans Day. I don't know if you complimented the 3rd grade teacher that had the 3rd graders sing. You know, they did a heck of a job. They sang not 1 but 2 songs down to Legion. I don't know if she taped that or not. Yeah, I don't know if she taped her, but it really went over well. And that, and she should be commended for that. And also, I'd like to see Rootnam out there. I'd like to see them put the name Rootnam on Rootnam and push it out. I've asked this before. Push it out the center corridor where people will see it. The teachers spent good money in having the thing built, and now it's pushed in the corner where nobody could see it. And I asked if it could be pushed out in the lobby, like a lot of, like you go down to Milton, the Black Panthers right there, and you go into some other schools, the mascots there. I'd like to see that. And then the lady Indian in the gym that's painted on the wall, the name of the artist was once there, and now it's covered up. If somebody could put the lady or whoever the kid, the student that painted it, put her name back up on the wall. I'd like to see that.
Jack, we have another comment period at the end of the meeting. Your 3 minutes. Sorry, so come back to us and give us the rest of that, would you? Thank you. Not seeing any others come forward. Thank you, Jack, for that. Oh, all right. Run down. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll sit tight for a second while we get the mic squared away.
Good evening, board members. My name is Greg Staff, 201 Legal Lane. I saw the agenda on MASD, or about MASD, and I wanted to just raise a couple of points that I think are very important. I've been trying to give this information to parents across the Commonwealth. I've been giving it to parents across the Commonwealth, as well as citizens. I have a handout for you. It's from the CDC website. It's been available, so you should know about it already. It was posted on July 21st, 2021. And what that site says is that after December 31st, 2021, CDC will withdraw the request to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for emergency use authorization as EUA approval of the CDC 2019 novel coronavirus NCOV real-time RT-PCR diagnostic panel. Therefore, you should not order the CDC is withdrawing its approval of the PCR test. Now, the reason for doing that is CDC recommends clinical laboratories and testing sites that have been using the CDC 2019 RT-PCR assay selectively begin their transition to another FDA-authorized COVID-19 test. CDC encourages laboratories to consider adoption of a multiplex method that can facilitate detection and differentiation of SARS-CoV-2 and influenza viruses. What this means is, and I would ask everyone to listen very carefully, we do not know how many COVID-19 cases there have been over the past 2 years. Again, we do not know, as we sit here tonight, how many COVID-19 cases there have been. We don't know whether they're flu, cold, dead mRNA cells, or COVID-19. We have no way of knowing. There was no test that was in place at the time that could differentiate the flu from SARS-CoV-2. This is the CDC telling this. I have this handout. I will provide it to you tonight. I think it's important to understand that because I hear a lot of school boards say it's not just this school board. A lot of them say things like the CDC this, the CDC that, the COVID numbers this, the COVID numbers that. The COVID numbers aren't reliable. Even Dr. Fauci quoted this weekend on national television saying I think it's important to differentiate from with versus of COVID-19. So if someone comes in with COVID-19 from a bike wreck, they're not there because of COVID, they just tested positive because the tests are inaccurate. Cloth masks don't work. I want to make sure everybody knows that Dr. Nguyen has been on CNN many times, just come out and said this now.
Are not appropriate for this pandemic. It's not appropriate for Omicron, it was not appropriate for Delta, Alpha, or any of the previous variants either, because we're dealing with something that's airborne. Cloth masks are not appropriate.
So that's Dr. Nguyen on CNN, so even if you're watching the local media, you should be aware they don't work. We've known that all along. This board has been provided with documents from Dr. Fauci's emails and the World Health Organization as well. And lastly, just very briefly and quickly, I want to say to you that if you decide, some school boards are, very few, to put masks on children, you should be aware that you are subjecting this school to a Section 1983 civil rights action. I would encourage you to talk to your counsel about it. The law is very clear. Sovereignty doesn't apply to Title 42 United States Code, Section 1983. There are many cases that are out there, including the Monell case, MONELL. This is one from Pennsylvania entitled the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties Cartels, 504 PA 92, Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, Justice Hutchinson states 42 U.S.C. 1983 claims are not barred by sovereign immunity. And I want to make that clear because I did advise this board at some point, sovereign immunity does protection in those situations. This is not one of them. At this point, if you decide to put masks on, you're doing that in court. You're doing it locally. There's no mandate, there's no letter, there's no directive, and there's no emergency in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The emergency in the national arena may end on January 16th. So with that, I'm done. I appreciate that. If I could just, I don't know, Mr. Schumann, I'll give this to, I was hand to Mr. Schumann.
So, hello, my name is Jose Martin, 31 Hampton Way in Montoursville. I drafted this with my friend, and she's acting as my mouthpiece since I am terribly scared of talking online.
I appreciate the fact that you did help me. My name is Catherine Burns, Muncie, Pennsylvania, and I needed your help, and I thank you for the same. I want to address the topic of Dottie Mathers appointing Corey Flick to the District Health and Safety Committee. This appointment is directly related to the mask request and the potential for vaccine.
Pardon? Speak to the board president. It's appropriate to speak to whoever's presiding over a meeting when you want to make comments. So go and speak to me, and then it's, the board is hearing you speaking to me.
Okay, I'll talk to you. Okay, that's all right. You know that.
Yeah, we don't want to address any individual board member. You want to speak to the chair of any particular meeting, and those listening, will hear your
Okay,
comments.
my understanding is that Dottie Mathers appointed Corey Flick, and I'm sorry, I apologize if I was incorrect. However, that was my understanding. So I'll speak directly to you. All right, Mr. Schimmel? All right, I'd like to share Corey's history of harassment that we have been made aware of to date. He has harassed a member of the District Health and Safety Committee, the very committee he was assigned to by Dottie, as I assume. He harassed Sharon Meyer to the point she felt the need to write the school board to notify them of his behavior. He also has a history of harassing Facebook members that do not agree with his political view to the letter. With Corey, there is no room for reasonable debate, only accusations, intimidation, and harassment. There are 3 more cases where Corey was asked to stop further communications. Harassing phone calls. Rick Hauser, he's not here this evening, he has repeatedly made harassing and unwarranted calls to Rick Hauser. I am Kathy Burns. He repeatedly called me late in the evening on multiple occasions after 10 p.m. And Mr. Schimmel, if my phone rings after 9 o'clock, somebody's either dead or hurt. I want to tell you, I lost 2 nights' sleep, terrified because this man called me, harassing me. After 10 o'clock, I could not sleep. I sat with my gun, watching my front deck door, waiting for that man to come up. That's how scared I was. I filed a police report with the Montoursville barracks because of this. It can be obtained from Officer Storms. I understand he's your police liaison. His harassment started by phone and text. And he also called me on Facebook, a leader of a domestic terrorist organization. He said he believes that I permanently practice Christianity, and anyone that doesn't should be referred to as a witch, and that I live in an alternative reality. He also made derogatory comments about Greg Stapp on Facebook, the attorney that just spoke. He called him an ambulance-chasing attorney, suggested Greg be sued over culpability related to COVID death based on spreading false information. He also listed people on Facebook that participated in the lawsuit against Montoursville Area School District. His goal was poor, but it was intimidation. His mission statement is to continue publicly refuting what he calls nonsense spewed at meetings and over email. He enjoys harassing people, and he's going to continue to do so. He is clearly guilty of the same harassment that Christina Basin faced last year, which was wrong then and is still wrong now, sir. Christina responded in an email that if a member proves they cannot maintain at least 2 of these rules, or if you become someone who harasses others privately or publicly, or you support harassing others, you will be removed. Christina referred to number 1, treat others as you wish to be treated. Number 2, the mission is to do what is best for everyone while in our district. This is a mission of we, not me. Corey has demonstrated to be a me person who does not treat others with respect and in a manner that he'd like to be treated. He supports and partakes in harassment and should be removed from his position. He's already got 3 strikes. He's unhinged, and I fear him, sir. I fear that man. How was he vetted? I would like the answer in writing as to how was he vetted. What qualifications does he have? He's childless. And I wouldn't know this man if I fell over, to be honest with you. I would like a response in writing. One more thing I will say, sir. We've got to the...
You can come back to it later. We've got a second.
May I have his 2 minutes? He's with me? 4 minutes, sir, please. That's why he's with me. I have a Facebook post here. I believe that he will not put the health and safety of the children first. He makes a comment as to why many of us are fed up with all those people who remain unvaccinated. And in his Facebook post, he says, he's replying to a gentleman that was defending those that have a right to choose whether they want a vaccine or not. This point is so full of bullshit, I don't even know where to begin, but I'll try. This is Corey speaking. There's almost 0 chance of any long-term side effects from this vaccine. Historically, in reference to all vaccines, like the COVID vaccine, long-term side effects are extremely rare. Furthermore, any vaccine-related long-term side effects are routinely learned within 6 weeks post-vaccination. Regarding the graph that was included, and he refers to the anthrax vaccine. Sir, I will provide for the entire school board every death, every adverse reaction, and every permanent disability by Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. And I'm going to present this to all of you. And I'm going to ask each and every one of you to review these statistics. I will provide them, I'll get them to you by tomorrow, because I didn't have time, I just got them this evening. Please look at them. Please look at them before you start to mask that, and before you start putting our kids in danger with a potential vaccine. I thank you, sir, for your time. And I pray for all of you. I'm not even angry at you anymore. Those of you that were here prior, I really ask God, please, to bless you and give you wisdom, because it's going to take an act of God to bring us all together here so that we can see what is best for our children. God bless all of you.
Evening, Kimberly Wren, 1105 Mason Avenue. First off, I just want to say that if you're not aware, Danville is gone virtual. Milton, the entire school district, has now gone virtual. It was started with just their middle high school. Their elementary school was now added. The CDC has set up different ways of contact tracing. One of the ways that we can keep our kids in school is through masking. Because if kids are masked, Then, when they follow the flow chart, if they're within or greater than 3 feet apart, between 3 and 6 feet, and both students are masked, if they are in close contact, even when that student has tested positive, they don't have to quarantine. The other way around quarantine is through vaccination. I've been vaccinated, my other children have been vaccinated, my husband's vaccinated, my 14-year-old is vaccinated, and as of this weekend has received her booster. I know it's anecdotal, but none of us have had any of her side effects, including my daughter. She's, God help me, she's gonna be mad if I said that. She's still getting regular periods, it is not interfering with things like that that I've heard, and people have like brought up that it's gonna take your ability to have children. I don't believe any of that to be true. Also, sorry, my heart's like pounding on my chest here because I'm about to recruit an attorney. A quick Google search after hearing him speak, fact check, did the CDC say its COVID-19 test can't differentiate between the virus and the flu? This was debunked in July by PolitiFact and other fact checkers, but it's back again, it's just as wrong now as it was then. On July 21st, the CDC issued a loud alert saying that it's withdrawing its request for the FDA's emergency use authorization of CDC 2019 novel coronavirus real-time RT-PCR diagnostic panel, the assay first introduced in February 2020 for the detection of COVID-19. The CDC encouraged labs to instead use newer tests that can detect multiple viruses at the same time in order to save both time and resources as we head into influenza season. After the initial alert raised questions, the CDC on August 2nd issued a clarification saying that the change was because the FDA has authorized hundreds of other SARS-CoV diagnosis tests, many of which can test for more than one illness at a time. Thank you.
This will actually be pretty brief. Number one, my kids are safe at a private school where masks are optional. As for students exposed to someone that has COVID, those students are monitored with a temp check for a couple of days. If no symptoms, then they go back to life as normal. The teachers show up for school, and the kids get to learn, breathe freely, with no threat of masking from an overreaching school district. Mrs. Mathers has convinced herself that she is trying to hold on to control pertaining to the masks for the better of the students. I'm convinced she will not let go of this control until it's pried out of her, for lack of a better expression, aging fingers. Please, in the future, vet the people Mrs. Mathers puts on the committees. I'm not sure she's fit to do the assigning after the last fiasco. Thank you.
My name is Tina McCoy. I live at 608 Arch Street here in Montoursville. I like to approach the mask issue from a different perspective. And this has to do with the perspective of masks being a type of child abuse. Pennsylvania defines child abuse as when an individual acts or fails to prevent something that causes harm or a high likelihood of harm to a child under the age of 18. This harm can take in many forms, such as bodily injury, serious mental injury, or sexual abuse or exploitation. Pennsylvania definition of child abuse was amended by the Child Protective Service Law and went into effect December 31st, 2014, and it is still in effect. This expanded definition lowered the threshold of what was considered child abuse under the CPSL. Generally, it's defined as anything that causes bodily harm through any recent act or failure to act. It can contribute anything that contributes to serious mental injury to a child through any act or failure to act, or a series of such acts or failures to act. And one of the specifics underneath these definitions reads exactly this way: anything interfering with the breath of a child. Masks interfere with the breathing of a child. For them to be somewhat effective, they should be changed every 20 minutes. Because it takes 20 minutes for moisture to accumulate in the mask to the point where they're not effective anymore. They're become breeding grounds for bacteria, for viruses, and the kids are breathing in that all day long. Kids with asthma should not have to wear masks. Kids who have to deal with panic attacks, anxiety attacks, kids who deal with claustrophobia, the mask in the face makes them feel closed in, they should not have to wear masks. And I think we should be a school district that stands up for the health and rights of our children. And the bottom line, I believe that all families should have the right to choose whether their children wear masks or not to school. Thank you.
Good evening, Sharon Meyer, Fairfield Township. First, I want to say thanks to Mr. Connolly. I'm back in person, so it's the benefit of having an in-person meeting. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Farrar for bringing back morning recess. I don't know if you all are aware, in the elementary schools, they lost a recess due to COVID. And so it was tacked on to the end of their lunch and they weren't going out in the mornings. And so it was nice to see Mr. Farrar do that. I want to say thank you. For allowing those kids. I know I had a very excited third grader come home in and out of that, so I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. But I'm obviously predominantly in here to talk about masking. I know I sent you all a very lengthy email, so I won't go over everything in detail. I just apologize for that. Some good reading. But as we all know, Omicron is the predominant strain in the United States right now. And as I had stated in my email, face masks are not effective with this variant. In the schools, students are predominantly wearing black masks. So if you institute this mask mandate, what you would need to do is provide those children with KN95. I'm not sure if any of you have worn a properly fit KN95 for any length of time. It's not fun, and it needs to be properly fit. The studies that are done on KN95 showing their effectiveness are done in a controlled setting, which is a random control trial, which I referenced. And they're done by someone who has to be licensed to fit them. Finding the pediatric K95, good luck. You can't right now. I mean, it's almost near impossible and they're very expensive. So they're uncomfortable. These children would have to, for them to have any effect whatsoever on the spread of Omicron. It's going to be with us. If you look at the case counts right now in school-age children from the PA COVID dashboard, when you had mask mandates compared to now, we're averaging, with the mask mandates, 91 cases per week of the school-age children in Lycoming County. Since the mask mandate has lifted, it's averaging 32 per week in the county. And that's just pediatric case counts. So I understand there's also the concern of the kids bringing COVID home. That also applies to utilizing correct masks. So if you're wearing cloth masks, it's a placebo. It's making you feel warm and fuzzy, but it's not really doing anything. If parents are concerned, they can get their kids K95 and go to somebody who's licensed to fit them and have them fit. But they can't take them off at all, period. That's part of the proper use of a KN95. Once you touch them, once you take them off, once you break the seal, any of the statistical significance you saw in the studies is mute. It's gone. I also know there's a lot of worry about substitutes and not having enough teachers due to Omicron being spread. I get that. A possible suggestion to this would be allow your teachers to become essential health workers. In the healthcare field right now, unless you're symptomatic, you're going to work because obviously they're being in contact with COVID people all the time. That's where they're going to the hospital, even just to get tested in the ER. So you allow the teachers to stay there. If they're symptomatic, sort of like during flu and cold season, don't come to work, please. You know, if you test positive, then follow the CDC guidelines. I think the fact that we're contact tracing teachers and making them stay home when they're perfectly healthy is contributing to the lack of having enough teachers in school. So please, I guess in essence, I'm just saying that we've made this pandemic a burden to our children. This is weight on their shoulders. Like, why are we penalizing the least likely to get it? Why are we penalizing the kids that have the lowest risk of mortality and making them wear the mask? So I'm sorry, Matt.
You can go back. You can go back later on if you like.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Dallas Authority, 3 Hollow Road, Upper Fairfield Township. Tonight I would like to talk about item G6 on the agenda. A board member is requesting that the school district requires universal indoor masking based on the transmission in Lycoming County. I know that this was all brought up at the health and safety meeting, and I have some questions on this. What were your requirements for people to be on the health and safety committee? Why all of a sudden does the board want to make decisions on masking when before no one wanted to, they wanted to leave it to the Department of Health? Does everyone on the health and safety committee have some type of health background? I understand that members of the board are on it, principals and the superintendent, but why are the members of the community on the health and safety committee that have zero background on health and safety? What makes these people qualified to make decisions on behalf of my children? The decision of masking should be left to parents. It should be a parental choice. I don't even understand why we're still talking about this. Everyone knows this isn't going away. It's here to stay. I'm a specialist in demolition. Does that make me qualified for health and safety committee? It does not. I have 3 children, 1 at McCall and 2 at the Valley. My 1 child at the Valley has been quarantined 3 times. That's a total of 30 days, guys. This year, he has significantly fell behind in his reading. The staff is trying all they can do to get him where he needs to be. For a child like this, do you have any idea how hard it is for him to learn to read with a mask on? Let alone learn from teachers with a mask on. Do you have any idea what you're putting these kids through? I'm sick of this. I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sick of all of it. Here's another thing I'm really sick of. The way this community is talking to each other. The amount of slandering that goes on is appalling. At school board meetings, when someone starts talking like this, they're shut down immediately, which in my opinion, they should be. If you can't talk without putting someone down, then you need to take a really long, hard look in the mirror. I'm appalled that one of the health and safety members is still allowed to be on the committee. After what was said and the harassment that was given, they should be kicked off. This is not the way we set a good example for our children. They look up to us. They watch what we do. Why are you allowing this on one of your committees? What example are you setting for our children? I have one last thing to say. I want to give a huge thank you to Mr. Duncan, Mr. Chow, Ms. Bear, and Mrs. Metzger. These people are doing so much for my boys right now. They're getting them where they need to be. They deserve to be recognized. They have definitely eased my heart through this really tough year. I also want to give a thank you to Mr. Myers for all that he has done to help my daughter throughout this year. It has not gone unnoticed. Thank you.
Veronica Levely, Cherry Street, Montoursville. I am a licensed speech therapist, owner of Just Words Therapy. I contract with the county. I'm going to apologize, I'm nervous. My heart is beating out of my chest. But I've been practicing during this pandemic. We were shut down for 3 weeks. I had to do Zoom therapy with 0 to 3-year-olds. The rise in special education, autism, global developmental delays has skyrocketed through the charts. Breaks my heart when I go into daycares and I see 2 and 3-year-olds masked and they can't even speak. Do you know what you need to see to speak? You need to see a mouth, not just eyes. You can't hear sounds produced correctly. My daughter is in first grade, and I'm a speech therapist, and she has a speech impediment. If she is masked, she can't see her teacher produce those sounds correctly, so therefore she can read them incorrectly, hear them incorrectly, phonemic awareness, segmentation, all of that. It goes all together. The masking needs to be a parent's decision. It also needs, this is the other thing, yesterday I stood outside of the first grade doors at Light Up, watched every single kid come out. Do you know how many were masked? 2. So what's that tell you? Because that's just the first grade doors. Tomorrow, I'll stand at the other doors. But what's that tell you about the majority of parents? They're okay with sending their kids to school unmasked. Thank you.
Good evening. Corey Flake, 315 Cypress Street. I wanted to provide an update as to the current total cost of the lawsuit filed against the board, Superintendent Basin, and former acting Department of Health Secretary Dean. This update also offers reasons to support mandatory mask policy. To date, Brenda and Mark Oberheim, Jessica and Eric Steinbacher, Brittany and Jason Little, Kara and Corey Smith, Rachel and Mark Britt, Chasney and Kurt Twig, Christy and Galahad Mallory, Brenda Sapp and their esteemed counsel Greg Sapp have cost the district over $37,000 in legal fees to fight the charade of a lawsuit in federal court. On 10/14/21, Attorney Michael Sweeney, in support of his motion on behalf of the board and the superintendent, concluded that Mr. Sapp and the plaintiffs failed to cite one case supporting the assertions that a mandatory mask order violates any personal rights or liberties guaranteed under the 14th Amendment. Additionally, as cited by Mr. Sweeney, in 1998, the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit ruled that the Philadelphia School District has a right to provide health services to prevent the transmission of disease. In that case, the service was providing students with condoms. The court further held that Pennsylvania Statute 14-1402 was passed with the intent to permit the expanding of school-based health services, not to limit them. Today, based on a litany of peer-reviewed studies conducted by qualified doctors and scientists, mandating masks is undoubtedly a health service which helps prevent illness. Simply put, Mr. Sapp, relying on precedent is fundamental in arguing a claim in court. I learned that in Mr. DeLong's 10th grade U.S. History 1 class way back in 2002. Attesting farther to the frivolous nature of the lawsuit, an amended complaint was filed in September adding Secretary Dean to the list of defendants. Mr. Sapp defined the defendant, per item number 96, as an elected voting member of the Montoursville Area School District School Board. On 12/6/21, Attorney General Josh Shapiro, in support of a motion to dismiss the amended complaint, wrote, plaintiffs failed to offer any facts to demonstrate that the acting secretary is a member of the school board, and indeed I don't see her here tonight. They also failed to offer any facts that she was involved in or even aware of the board's decision to remove the optional masking guideline. The assertions put forth by A.G. Shapiro and Mr. Sweeney were affirmed on 12/20/21. Judge Brand dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice, preventing any further litigation by the plaintiffs and effectively saving taxpayers untold amounts in future legal fees. Thank you, Judge Brand. By now, you should have received an abundance of emails from proponents of masks, many who are unable or unwilling to speak tonight. Among those who are ready to speak are MASD staff members. The email serves as a reminder that loud and aggressive does not always mean majority. I urge you to please follow the science and the CDC recommendations as opposed to obliging whoever is the loudest and most threatening. Making masks optional when our county is under elevated transmission status signals capitulation to the loud anti-mask crowd is more important than the health and safety of the students and faculty. Your decisions, in my opinion, should be based on what is best for the whole community and not those more concerned with themselves and their freedoms. Thank you.
I was not going to speak tonight, I was just going to listen. But I do think that what I have is worth mentioning when we're looking into the parental choice option of the mask mandate. My name is Tanya Shaper, and I reside at 26 South Montoursville. I would like to tell you a little bit about the fourth graders today. My son Owen is a high-spirited young man. He is diagnosed with sensory processing disorder as well as autistic, borderline autistic. He was very young when they tested him, so he didn't quite have enough of the criteria at the time to make a firm diagnosis. Let me tell you what the day for Owen is like in school. He gets to school and he sits down to his reading and realizes, oh, Mom forgot to cut the tag out of my shirt today. So now I have to go to the teacher, and the teacher's going to have to cut the tag out of my shirt because I won't be able to think about anything else today except for that tag. So he gets his tag cut out of his shirt. He sits back down and starts his reading. Well, then a car drives by. But it doesn't sound like a car to Owen, it sounds like an airplane driving by the window. Owen is not able to shut the sensory data off that comes into his brain. And multiply that now by putting a mask on his face. All he can feel is the itch of the mask. So then we say, okay, well maybe we can put a face mask on him, or a face shield, excuse me, which would be fine, except his sensory processing disorder also makes it very difficult for him to keep anything out of his mouth. So you will see him 9 times out of 10 in a plain colored t-shirt because we had sick of buying new shirts all the time because he wore a shirt one time and that's it. So you will 9 times out of 10 see him in a plain cotton t-shirt because he can chew a collar without ruining all his clothing. So we add now a face shield, which is making it so that he can't get to the collar that he needs because that's how he focuses. With the shirt in his mouth is how he is able to focus and do his math and do his reading and do his spelling and not be a distraction to the kids around him. I would strongly encourage the board to at least, if you are going to make a masking mandate for our children, at least allow children who have documented IEPs, 504 plans, to get a parental exemption. We are not able to get exemptions from our doctor's offices. Guidance has been given by our doctor's offices from above them. They are not to write notes for our children. It's just, they will not. No matter how many times you call, no matter who you talk to, they will not. The only option for parents of kids with special needs is a parental exemption. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Weaver. I live along Route 87 in Montoursville. I have a differing opinion than probably most people in this room. I'm not anti-mask. I'm not pro-mask. Pro-choice. Those children are my children. Just like the folks in here right now that are masked. I respect and support what they're doing. If they feel like putting a mask on their face and on their child's face is the right thing to do for their health and safety, do it. Put 5 on. I'm cool with it. But for the folks that are sitting here like myself, not masked, who don't want to mask their children, like myself, I expect the same respect. And from the school board, what I want from you guys is find a common ground. The Health and Safety Committee has been brought up multiple times here tonight. I too have witnessed some of the harassment on social media that was brought up. And I do think it is very important that after this meeting, a consideration and discussion should be had on removing Mr. Flick from the Health and Safety Committee. I don't think it's an appropriate representation of what we're trying to accomplish. I emailed you guys all, Mr. Schimmel, I'm sure you got it too. It was lengthy, I'm not going to touch on it, right? You guys all know how I feel. At the end of the day, if what the group decision is, you guys want to enforce a mask mandate, do it. Put and allow parental signature for an exemption. It's my choice for those children, my children, that I paid for, that I helped give birth to, that I'm raising. I'm not asking you guys for any help with any of that. I don't need your help in making a decision and what's right for those kids' children. I need your guys' help in making a decision and what's right for their education. I don't know about you, but I think that's the best common ground that we can find to get back to more people like Mr. Calhoun coming up here, sharing stories. I don't know about you, Mr. Schimmel, but it made me feel good. Kids winning mask tournaments. I want to hear about that stuff. I want to hear about masks. I don't want to hear about vaccines. I don't want to hear about the community division anymore. You can almost draw a line in the middle of this room. It's scary. I don't like it, and I don't think anybody else in this room does either. And I guess what I'll leave you with at the end, I really think that the parental exemption is the common ground here, and I really think that everybody in this entire room needs to keep the words in the back of their mind. Love thy neighbor. You don't have to agree with each other. You don't have to want to do what that other person wants to do, but you owe them enough as a human to respect them. That's all I got. Thank you.
Dan Sullivan, 9911. When we talk about division, there's one division that's going to be created, and I want to talk about the teacher level of things. I live it, I see it, I've been in the masking territory, I've been in the unmasking territory of teaching. Teachers, one of their main responsibilities is to build bridges with their kids, build relationships with their students. That's how you become an effective teacher. Now, if you decide that kids need to be masked, that's totally your choice. That's why you're up there. You get to vote that. But you need to make sure administration supports teachers. Who's going to police the mask? Teachers have enough on their plate. They're not police. You can't expect teachers to police masking in schools. I've had to deal with it. I've had kids that I've been close to and making games with, and all of a sudden, like, hey, you gotta pull up that mask, you gotta put that mask on, you're not supposed to be not wearing your mask, you know, and all of a sudden that shuts that down. It puts a barrier up in education. I'm up here as a roles and educator right now, and I want you to keep that on the back of your mind. Whose job is it to police? What do the teachers need to do? I've heard stories from several teachers in this district already about when they've had to send students to the office. And then guess what? The kids come back, oh, we don't have to wear the mask. Office gave us permission not to wear it. Not sure who the office might be. I would hope that the buck stops at the administration level. But I think the board needs to make it very clear on how it's handled and allow teachers to do their job of teaching and building bridges and relationships with students. Thank you.
Not seeing anybody else. What, are you, Madam, are you coming down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mindy Velocich, all from Montoursville. As many of the others, I'm also a little nervous being up here, but I want to say that I am opposed to mandatory masking as well. For all the reasons, I don't need to reiterate them. They've already been hit on the head tonight. On another note, other than masking, because we have discussed it multiple times here this evening, I am also concerned about the drug issue that we're having at our school right now. We received a call stating that rumors were going around that somebody might have overdosed on school property. I've heard this from many students that this did occur in a bathroom. However, the message did not mention that this did occur, so I'm not sure what the facts are on this, but I would like the board to address what we're doing as a school to minimize our drug exposure, because from my understanding from the message that we have gotten
It was just delivered as pet candy. I mean, kids go around all day sharing. I mean, you want to talk about masks and spreading COVID and all this stuff. Kids are sharing stuff at school. A mask is not going to stop the spread of COVID within school. They're sharing drinks. They're sharing candy. They're sharing peds, that is drugs. Come on. We have to get past COVID and think about our kids. There's other stuff going on within the school that we are totally not addressing. Our kids are failing right now, socially and academically. And they're turning to drugs to soothe themselves. We need to look past COVID. It's a virus. It's going to spread. Dottie, you know viruses spread. You work as a nurse. You taught me. I went to Penn College. You were my instructor. Viruses spread. We're not going to stop it with a mask. Okay? We need to address other issues at these board meetings other than COVID. Such as, what are we going to do to protect our kids from the drug issue that is going around our community? I don't want my kids exposed to that either. So, that's it for me. I'm sure other parents are also concerned about that.
Okay, seeing no one else approaching the podium, we'll move on now to additional items on the agenda, and we'll move down to the business manager's report. Okay.
You've received copies of the treasurer's reports for the period ending December 31st, 2021 for the general fund and cafeteria fund. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration and approval.
Move to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And Dan, are you out there? Mr. Albert?
Yeah, I'm here. Aye.
Thank you. You've received copies of the listing of invoices for the general fund and cafeteria fund for the period ending January 11th, 2022. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval and payment.
Move to approve.
Questions? Hearing none, take a roll call on that, Rick.
Mr. Albert?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Dr. Berry?
Yes.
Dr. LaCroix?
Yes.
Dr. Mathers?
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel?
Yes.
Mr. Snell?
Yes.
Mr. Ulmer?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
All right, and just for other business going on, the audit is taking a little bit longer. This year we are doing the audit on the ESSERS funding that we've received so far, which is taking a little bit more. It's new to everyone, so we are working through that. We are hoping to have it here for the work session later this month. The budget process has also started, and I was going to just share what I had previously did, that we are continuing our discussion on the fees for other people using the rental of the building, and that is all I have for this evening.
Okay, move on to item 6 on the agenda, the superintendent's report, and I would like to hear reports from the administration, and my eyes walk on to Mr. Myers first, so you're up, Mr. Myers. Do you have anything for us tonight?
And we're just glad to be back in session. We had a lot of support for our holiday,
be a lot of support for a lot of our holiday fundraisers. So we appreciate all the support from not only the teachers, the students, and the parents. So we're excited to be back. Kids are doing well, and that's about all. Thank you.
Hand it over to Mr. Hunter, and you can tell us what's going on with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. What I wanted to start off with is we have scheduled our early intervention transition meetings coming up in February. They're scheduled for February 15th and 16th. We have about 10 students that will be transitioning from the early intervention program to school-age programs. And this meeting will give the various staffs a chance to get together and discuss the needs of the students so we can, if parents are intending on enrolling them within our school district, so we can make sure that the services that are in need are in place before the students start in the fall. The next thing that I have for you is we have TASA, the testing accommodations for the state assessments that are coming up. We are in the midst of training our staff right now, and the enrollment window opened on January 5th, and testing will begin in March for that. And then the final thing that I have is we have at Liger Elementary a sign language lunch bunch group that is going to be starting. Mrs. Susan Wood, who is our sign language interpreter that we have on board with us in the district, she's working closely with Mrs. Nicole Bastian, the IU hearing support teacher, and they're going to be working with students because we have one of our kindergarten students, and they're going to be working that primarily communicates through sign. So they're going to be teaching some of the other students sign language so that they will be able to help communicate with that student as well. And that is my report.
And pass it on to Mr. Farrar.
Well, thank you, Mr. Henry. You took action on what I was going to talk about. But no, we're just, like Mr. Myers, we're happy back, have the students back at the holiday break. We just want some warm weather, some melts off that ice so we can get it back out and get some exercise outside. But the kids have transitioned back in well. And I'll report to Mr. Young because we apologize. He, here at the meeting, got called. I had to do a matter at the building. So we apologize for having to leave. So, but again, we're glad to be back. The fourth graders at most schools did a great job at holiday concerts, and looking forward to these winter months and continue working hard.
Mr. Tormino.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Good to be back. Everything is running and running at full steam. We did have some fantastic concerts right here in this room prior to the break. So congrats to the music department and their efforts to bring holiday cheer throughout the district. Thank you.
And Mr. King, do you have anything for us?
Oh, yeah, I'm just glad to be back. Kids are glad to be back. And I would just like to echo what Mr. T and Mr. Meyer said and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. With that, then we'll move on to the agenda items. And if you don't mind, I would like to just jump G6 up to the top of the heap, and let's just dispense with that, deal with it, and tackle it right now, and then we'll move on to the balance of the items. Are you okay with that, board? Move that to the head of the stack? Okay, all right. That being the case, item G6, which we'll take first now, is as long as Lycoming County remains in the very high substantial transmission category, as noted on, and gives the URL for that information. Montoursville Area School District will require universal indoor masking by all students, staff, faculty, and visitors, regardless of vaccination status, with exceptions as noted by the most current CDC guidelines. So that is G6 as presented. Do we have a motion for that?
Motion. I will motion to approve with the option to amend it based on our board discussion.
Could we have a battery or a replacement? Wait, yeah, could a battery or replacement with it? So we have a motion with the the idea that a friendly amendment of some time, if that, some kind, if that is satisfactory to the board, we can incorporate that. We have a motion and we need a second on that. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, board discussion.
Mr. Schimmel.
Yes, sir.
We've had a lot of talk tonight about a health and safety committee. That health and safety committee, to my knowledge, was formed to get information to the board. We have yet to see the information come to the board from the health and safety committee. So what I would like to do is make a motion to table this vote until we see what the Health and Safety Committee can share with us and the community. I realize once that's done, then there'll be discussion on whether to agree with it. But I don't think we should vote on this. So tonight, when we don't know what the health and safety, and as far as I'm understanding, you have, am I correct, you have, Matt, this Health and Safety Committee has been meeting?
The Health and Safety Committee met on the 4th. The plan was revised in a matter of respects. Many of the items actually did not change at all. As far as the masking item, the provision there will be that the only modification of that was that our action for May 24th last year would remain in place, and with the exception that there would be masking would occur. Help me with the language on that, if you recall, Patty.
Well, what I recall actually is we had a discussion and we didn't really come to an agreement, except that Mr. Schimmel said we'll just keep it as is because we thought that's how the board would vote. I brought this motion up today because if we table it, we might miss the opportunity to prevent going remote. That's my main concern. The numbers are skyrocketing. We have doubled in the last week. We doubled the week before that. We see that Milton went remote. We see that Danville went remote. Going remote is terrible for our students. You talk about mental health. That increases anxiety. It increases depression. It increases isolation. I just want to keep the kids in school. I know that masks are not 100%. It's multi-layered mitigation. And I know that they go out in the community. I can't control that. But it's something I just felt responsible and ethical that I needed to bring this to the board now to discuss it. And even if we just do it for 2 weeks until then we'll come back in 2 weeks and revisit it. I'm just concerned. Our numbers are high. They're the highest they've ever been in one of the schools, and we're getting close to having to go remote. And I don't want to see that happen. And it's the teachers too. You can keep the teachers in if you want to keep them as an essential worker if they're asymptomatic. But if they're home ill, if they have symptoms and you don't have substitutes, you can only combine so many classes. You only have so many administrators that can go and act as a sub. You can pull your IEP, your special education, your MSSS teachers to help, and then your students that need that special help aren't getting that special help because you're using those teachers to sub for the absences. And that's why it's the only thing that I know to do to help to try to prevent going remote. So I would not vote to table it.
Well, I'm not going to remove my motion to table it. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
No, I'm not, can you table that once we've done first and second?
Yes.
Since you beat that to the punch, you can table that?
Yes.
I would actually like to put this to bed myself. I would like to actually move on. I don't want this lingering any longer for us myself. But if you want a motion on the table, we can do that. I personally want to vote on this mapping and get it done, get this over with.
Well, I, myself, and I'm thinking there's a lot of community members that would like to see, since we have a new configuration of the Health and Safety Committee, would like to see what the Health and Safety Committee comes up with to recommend. Not that we have to follow what they recommend, but it would be interesting to see what it is that they do recommend.
The exception for masking will be in scenarios where students can be kept in school by having them masked. That's when masking, we would have masking done. That way students who normally would be out for 10 days, they can be in school with masks, and that would be the only exception to the universal masking. So that's the only scenario we would override our May 24th motion, which brings the students into school. So that's what's going to be the language placed. And I apologize. I wish I could see that language. It's about 10 words, 8 or 10 words. I wish I could see it in my mind's eye what that would be. And that would be that revised health and safety plan, proposed revised health and safety plan will be published in the next few days, and the public will have a chance to comment. The board will see it. It really was not revised significantly, actually. Only about 3 items of those 10 items were revised on that. So, well, I guess I'm trying to convince you to withdraw your table, because I'd like to just put G6 to bed. Can I convince you on it? We will get the health and safety plan out this week. It will be published.
I'm sorry, Mr. Schimmel, I'm not convinced.
Okay.
we have a motion and we have 2 seconds.
All right. So let's roll call on the table so we get the count right.
Mr. Albert. Mr. Albert, still there?
Technology, great.
Yes, I can.
Okay, this is the motion to table G6. If you vote yes, you're tabling it. If you vote no, you're not tabling it. Yes or no, Mr. Albert?
No.
No, is that correct? Mr. Badger?
No.
Dr. Beery?
No.
Dr. LaCroix?
No.
Dr. Mattis?
No.
Mr. Schimmel?
No.
Mr. Snell?
Yes.
Mr. Ulmer?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Okay. Motion fails. Board, what do you want to do with G6? Any more discussion?
Yes, I'd like to start by offering a friendly amendment that was actually suggested by a member of the community who opposes masks that emailed us. Friendly amendment to, I always get the levels mixed up, to take substantial out of there so that it would only be under conditions of high transmission. So I guess, does Dottie have to accept that or not accept that?
Right, I would accept that, and I'll explain that further, because I got that email as well, and in fact, we got lots of emails from the community with 35% more in favor of masking than not in favor of masking. But when that person asked me about that, I again looked up the definitions of substantial versus high, and I found that the Lycoming website has it listed as substantial, but when you look under the definitions, we're really at high. And substantial goes all the way down to 100 per 100,000. And so I would even be willing, and looking at the numbers, right now we're at 1,038 people infected per 100,000. And it's still climbing. So if we can get down to 300, I would be willing, again, I would say, let's look at this again in 2 weeks. Let's go and follow the numbers. But if we want to put an end point, and I think that's important, to have a starting point and an end point, I'm willing to put it at 350. I'll compromise between the 300 and 400. If we get down to 300, less than 300, then we don't have to mask.
But he,
So that's still in the high transmission rate, but it's not where we are right now.
But here we're continuing to discuss the health and safety plan that I haven't seen yet. How can I debate the health and safety plan without seeing it yet?
I'm only talking about the masking.
That's part of it.
But I have a whole host of questions about the health and safety plan, this levels of high, where did those numbers come from? Who determined that it should be 100? Now we're talking, we can go to 300, we can go to 350.
That's my kind of compromise, Mr. Older.
And that's fine, but we should be looking at the whole plan and talking about that. I'm not at a point to be willing to debate whether we should have been 3 or 350. If we're going to be voting on this, I'm going to be voting no masking until I can see the health and safety plan and see what that committee recommended, and then I want to debate that recommendation as a board member.
And I also want to bring up a point. You brought up that email. We also got an email from a community member, and that community member spoke tonight and let us know numbers that are for school-age kids. And the comparison was from when we had mask mandatory and when we went to mask optional. And in mask optional, the numbers aren't near as high. And I also want to bring up the point that when we voted on mandatory masks before, and it passed, unfortunately, there was some board members that said the only reason why they were voting for mandatory masks is because they were worried about not doing what the law says, which wasn't a law anyway, it was a mandate. But anyway, I just want to bring up that and remind those board members that made that statement that they would have voted against masks, but they didn't want to go against what the state said.
Those numbers that were given were before Omicron started impacting Lycoming County.
Well, that'll be a reminder. And it turns out that the law was struck down. We had full effect of the law. Our attorney provided us guidance to that effect, so we were acting under the law. But look, folks, I don't know we're getting a lot of valuable, useful information out of this debate here. Mr. Young, did you want to say something? Was that you? Oh,
Mr. Schimmel in the back here. I had Mr. Albert as well who would like to speak.
Okay.
This is what we're talking about here. I'm a little concerned from the standpoint that this is a little weird that they're doing it. This is a delay, so bear with me. So, okay, so what I'm thinking is that here we sit, discussing about what we're doing here this evening, and the committee really has failed. I've talked to several people about the committee, and the disappointment is that there's no understanding, as well as what we're dealing with tonight. There's no understanding. There isn't any one of us that doesn't care about our students, that doesn't care about what happens to them, what happens to their parents, what happens to their grandparents. This is just something that unfortunately we are making more of a deal than we need to, from the standpoint that I really firmly believe that it is the people's choice, and that choice is their own. And for us to sit here and try to take that away, I don't think it's right. And you know, we've been dealing with this for over 2 years, and we're still going down the same path. And I think we need to vote on it tonight, because we're over with, to get it done with. And you know, we don't need to know what somebody else thinks. It's what you think. And what I feel, you can't respect it, then I don't hear you comment back on it. Whatever I feel is what I feel. And what I believe in is what I believe in. No different than what somebody else believes in. And that should be fair enough. We've lost a lot of lives, but you know, that's not because we've had an AFLON or we didn't have an AFLON. That's because this is something that just happened. And we just need to keep in mind that, you know, it has nothing to do whatsoever with who's right or who's wrong. There's a higher power involved. That's my belief, and that's what I'm going to stay with. And I think we got to stop this. This is just going on too much.
I guess can people hear me? I mean, I think the one thing that everyone here agrees is that the academic, psychological, and social harm of remote learning is something that we all want to avoid at all costs. And, you know, we just genuinely disagree. I think Mrs. Myers mentioned in her email that, you know, cloth masks may only prevent 15 to 37% of particles. So here, let me take a stab at my logic here. Mr. Weaver, I can't hear you. Mr. Weaver. We can see if this meets. Our solicitor might not be happy with me about this, but I was emailing with him today. And my understanding is that if this motion with the friendly amendment passes, I think I'm understanding this correctly, it would allow a parent opt-out for sincerely held religious beliefs against masks. I guess I don't believe we can let parents self-diagnose their kids, but I agree with, I think it was Mrs. Schaefer, that any child with a diagnosis of autism, sensory issues, asthma, or anxiety panic should have an exception. I'd like to see our teachers teaching phonics, I guess that would be K through 1, to maybe the district supply clear masks. I know they make them for students who lip read at the very least during phonics instruction. So I guess with all that various research, I feel like that kind of is a potential compromise or solution.
My signature. My signature is what you need. That's it. My signature. That's it. You don't need my religious signature. You don't need anything. My signature. That's it.
Okay, I guess according to the solicitor, that wasn't possible.
What about Muncie? What about
Hey,
What about the South Side?
no, the board's debating, it's our turn.
Are we saying to the parent, did you just say that parental opt-out is not an option?
No, I said that the law the law permits parents to two different exceptions for sincerely held religious beliefs or for disabilities, and I know I'm angry that local doctors won't sign those letters, but in my mind, anyone with a diagnosis of those disorders, I mean, again, the autism, sensory, panic attacks, and asthma seem obvious to me that you could argue.
Well, if you're talking about sincerely held.
Sue, just so you understand, the law said, the court said, it is up to the school districts to decide how they want to do it. So if the school district wants to say parental choice, then the school districts can say parental choice.
Right, but I guess my interpretation when it went from state to local control was there was some implicit understanding that local numbers would have some impact on those school board decisions. I guess that's my interpretation.
So are we saying the friendly amendment might be problematic?
I say it's problematic because it needs to be parental choice.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I was proposing that substantial be taken out and high be used, but I mean, I guess someone else can try a friendly amendment.
so we're saying there's no friendly amendment yet?
No, the friendly amendment is. My friendly amendment was to remove, high is the highest level of transmission, so the G6 in the agenda has high or substantial. So my friendly amendment was to remove substantial, which is the second highest level. That this would only be invoked at the highest level. And again, my understanding from the solicitor is that includes an opt-out for sincerely held religious beliefs and disabilities. So if anyone else wants to continue friendly.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that amendment parental choice. Not
Yeah.
Well, I think you could argue a religious belief.
Well, let's just, somebody, that's a loophole in my opinion.
Right, it is,
Yeah.
it is. It's a loophole, but is it a way that we can get more people, more students masked? This is a board discussion, please.
God, any student that wants masks, there's nobody stopping them from being masked.
Yeah, I think the amendments that we proposed actually that be contradictory. Board, I'm not sure if board anywhere with this. I recommend we vote on it now as presented without amendments.
Can we vote on it as presented under just a very high transmission category?
You accept that amendment? So the amendment would be that it's remains very high. So there's no legal substantial. All right, so with that friendly amendment, let's stop call now for a vote, a roll call vote, Randy.
Mr. Albert?
No.
Mr. Badger?
No.
Dr. Beery?
Yes.
Dr. LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to mention,
Yes or no?
I'm gonna go yes.
Dr. Mathers?
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel?
No.
Mr. Snell?
No.
Mr. Ulmer?
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Mr. Young?
4 to 5. No.
6-3.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, let's move on now to the rest of the agenda items. We have agenda T1, approval of the 2022-2023
Move to approve.
all in favor, say, any questions on the calendar? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. T2, approval of the purchase of a convection steamer at a price of $18,600 for the Montoursville area high school cafeteria. Do you have a motion? This is using the excess cafeteria funds, I believe.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah, that's a question I was gonna ask. That is excess cafeteria.
Yeah, we don't want to say profit, but when we have.
Right, it has to be used in the cafeteria.
Yeah,
I think it's,
please do.
I think it'd be better if I explain it.
Thank you.
So at the beginning of the year, I believe the top of the steamer had been working for quite some time. We had looked into getting that fixed, the top piece, I believe sometime last year, because it broke last year. And Mr. Nafo can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was around like $5,000 to get it fixed because the parts were so hard to find. The machine has been discontinued, couldn't get parts for it. At that time, we did speak with the cafeteria. They were able to use the bottom part of it, and it was working, and we were making it work instead of spending the money at that point. So then moving on into the beginning of this year, shortly into the beginning of this year, the bottom was working. So at that point, we started looking into it to try to see if we could get it fixed again, and we looked into it to get it fixed. We can't get everything. They could probably get some parts off of different used old machines, but the cost was adding up to almost the cost of a new one, and there was no guarantees on how long it was going to work. We can only maintain 3 months flowing revenues in our cafeteria fund every year. With that being said, our cafeteria, prior to going into the COVID and, when we were self-op, we always ran real negative balances every year. We have been able to profit some monies now that we are with a company instead of self-op, and that does have to be spent every year. So whatever we come out as our profit at the end of the year, that does have to be spent. It can only be spent on items that directly benefit just the cafeteria. So it can't be spent on anything else in the school except for what is being used in the cafeteria. It's meant to keep replacing equipment and keep your facilities up to date. Your cafeteria is what they want it to be used for. This machine has, it has quit working. We have went through all the processes because it is the cafeteria fund. It is very strict. We did get, I think it ended up being 5 quotes on that, and we did go with who we thought we were going to go with because we got a different quote that was lower from someone else, and the other company's usually pretty good with us, but we ended up finding something that was cheaper, and it's the same machine. So that would be used, part of that money would be used on this piece here, and that's what that money is for. And then we also had to submit it into Harris for approval, and Harris has approved us to purchase this because they do have to approve any purchase over $5,000.
Thank you for that very thorough explanation. Appreciate that.
The only question I have is, was that new to the high school?
It was new when the cafeteria was put in, yes. It is not that old. I agree with you.
I mean, that's 4 years.
It had several of these conversations. It's not under warranty or anything like that.
Right. The new one we're getting, if this passes, is it the same brand?
It's a different, no.
Okay.
They don't make that one anymore.
And also part for a second year warranty on the next one. That's what I can get.
So it's just a 2-year warranty then?
Yeah, it was only a 1 on the one we have. I got it 2. That's the best I can get.
Okay.
It helps, I guess.
Mr. Nafo has worked hard tried to get us the best deal with this, and he's put a lot of time into this, and it's, you know, something that the ladies in the cafeteria need. It makes their job a lot easier, efficient.
I guess I only got one more question. I thought I was done asking, but
Okay.
you said that the profits aren't covering the total cost. Is is in that what was it, PE? Would you say it was?
And then I didn't, in fact, you may have misunderstood me. Our profit, we are only allowed to keep 3 months in there.
Right.
And it'll cover all this, but we have more that we have to spend, and we're working on some other projects as well right now.
Okay.
That will bring to you in the future. It's just, this is the first one that we have completely prepared, because again, it does take some time to get everything we do need for repairs to get something improved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I assume there's no other questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Chief, go ahead.
Should we get Mr. Albert separately? Because he's on a delay. I don't know how we want it to work.
Is he still there? I think he's okay with you too. No comments so far.
Yeah.
Thank you. G3, approval to hire up to 5 special education teachers. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Mr. LaProne, motion, and Mr. Badger, second, I think. All right. Questions or discussion?
If I'm understanding this correctly, these are, for the time being anyway, are temporary employees, correct?
No. Initially.
Yeah, Mr. Jim, that answer is yes. If Mrs. Bates any information, they're long-term substitutes for the remainder of this year only. And then we'll reevaluate what our situation is.
Okay, okay, very good. That's just a little different than last week when we were talking about this. Okay, thank you.
And these will be used, ESSER's funds, correct?
Initially a little bit, right, then it phases out. If they become long-term, they would phase into the general budget, but the hope is that if they have to be long-term, that through attrition and over time, it's going to be a work in progress, but for the immediate, these next 2 to 3 years, this is a desperate need, an absolute desperate need in the district, because I think we heard people looking to it tonight.
So our approval, I mean, it isn't contingent on reevaluation, but we will be having a discussion for the 22-23 budget year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is your year in that regard.
Yeah,
But
okay.
the question is, will the need go away in a year? Probably not. Okay, any other questions, or if not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And Mr. Albert, are you okay with G3?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. G4, approval of the Montoursville High School course catalog for the 2022-2023 school year. It's available online. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. P5, approval of use of facility request from Courtney Petrowski to the Montoursville Youth Football and Cheer, the Lander Elementary Gym, and Mondays from January 10, 2022 to May 2, 2022, from 5 to 7:30. There's an attachment you received, of course, to a motion.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Thank you. G7, approval of the draft copy of the emergency instructional time template, section 520.1 for the 2021-2022 school year as requested by PDE.
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
G8, approval for Westchester, a Chubb company, to provide cyber liability insurance at a total cost of $13,442. The policy will be in effect from January 2022 to January 2023. The cost last year was $9,085.86.
Question.
Motion is second, then we'll discuss. Motion?
Second.
Any questions?
Why the increasing cost of almost 40%?
So sorry, wow, back here, but I can answer this, director of technology. So last year, we had, worked out the policy through AppPay, and I believe it was about 60 days or so ago, AppPay reached out to us and said they're no longer providing any policies to any school districts. So that, with our renewal date coming up, actually this week, we had to scramble with our broker to find a new policy. As we're searching for new policies, we are learning about all kinds of new requirements in order to get any policy. Our broker had reached out and actually obtained 5 different quotes after going back and forth for months now, filling out surveys, providing information about our security systems. And the quotes that they obtained ranged between $25,000 and $45,000 for similar coverage. And then obviously we have the policy that was presented to you from Chubb. Chubb is a well-known policy provider, and they work with a lot of other school districts in our area and outside of our area. We reviewed the coverages that they're providing us. It was all very reasonable, and obviously the lowest price out of any policy that we received. So that is why we took them.
Thank you.
Any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Thank you. I move on now to personnel. Item P1, approval of following retirement from a member of professional staff. Mr. Steve Tressler, a science teacher, 21 years of service at the end of the school year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
I just would like to say my regrets for that retirement. Mr. Tressler is an awesome teacher. I've gone into his classroom and he really affects the students. It's amazing what he's done.
You'll be missed for sure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
P2, approval of following retirements from the members of the sports staff. Valerie Mowry, her professional of 19 years of service, effective April 13, 2022. And Ann Strong, from her professional of 10 years of service, effective December 1, 2021. Do you have a motion?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. P through approval of following leave of absence for a member of the professional staff. And there's employee ID from March 7, 2022 to the end of the school year.
Motion to approve.
Just as occasional with the computer, the attorney and I have been sort of communicating a little bit, just providing a little guidance as we go. That's why I look over, see things. So, just ready to vote it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
And actually, the good attorney advises that we could go P4 to P11 unless there's a separation, unless you don't want to do that as a block, or we could just take care of all items. Would you care to separate anything, or would you like to do P4 through P11 all at once? What's your favorite?
Do them all.
Oh, okay. Then approving items P4 through P11, I won't read through them. Give me a moment to
Wait,
scan.
if you would, pick out P8, please.
I will separate P8. All right, so P4 through P7 and P9 through P11. If you want to take another second just to scan them real quick and
Motion to approve.
all right, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Okay, PA approval of the following addition to the professional staff, tentative effective date, January 27, 2022. Robin Smelko, and you are teacher, and master step 8 of 62,768, and replacement for Deborah Taylor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
I just wanted Robin to be able to have her name announced separate. I didn't want it to be part of the whole.
Okay.
I will comment, I have known Robin since, all of her life.
Okay.
She's a great person, wonderful parents.
Good.
She's going to be a great addition to our district.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Collins. Okay, so we have an endorsement for Robin Smelko. Thank you. All right. Okay, I'm losing track. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Robin's out there.
Hello, welcome aboard.
I thought maybe you'd give a speech. No, okay.
You don't want to come forward and say hello to us? All right, good.
Hi, I'm Robin Smalco. I will be the new addition to the art faculty.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity to return back home.
Yeah, we like that. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Jim, I'll just simply say, Mr. Youngkin and I and a couple of folks, including Mrs. Taylor, we're losing a great teacher. Mrs. Taylor, we're not losing anything in the sense of having a fantastic art teacher for our elementary students, so we're excited to have her come on board. Ready to, next one we'll bring back a revision of Mrs. Taylor's retirement so she can actually retire as planned. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last items, P1 transportation, approval of Wellness Plan busing rates in the amount of $2303.20 and $2538.82 for December 2021. We have an attachment related to that. Any motion?
Motion to approve.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, academics, under A1, we have approval of a waiver of tuition fee granted for student 222200, grade 12, for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year.
Move to approve. Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert?
Aye.
Ayes have it. And that concludes our agenda items.
Dave, it is 9 o'clock.
It is, we, at 9:12, we'll be in session 2 hours, but we can go ahead, I think we're gonna go over a little bit, so, board will entertain a motion to extend the meeting a half hour.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Okay, so the effective end date would be 9:32, or 9:42. All right, guess we'll do a committee report, don't we? Okay. And Vice President, we can walk us through those.
Okay, for PSBA, the only announcement I have is that January is School Board Recognition Month. So congratulations to the new members and continuing members who are being recognized. Policy Committee, Dr. LaProne. Okay. IU, Dr. Berry.
The first meeting is January
19th, okay. LCTC, Mr. Schimmel.
Yeah, the transition has occurred. The new executive director is now at the helm full-time. The interim director has moved on, who was an excellent resource for the Joint Operating Committee. Learned so much about what was going on from the interim director. He's given a tremendous amount of information to the new director, named Nate Minium. And I think the administrators and other principals mostly will find him to be a really good individual to work with. I think the counselors will benefit working with Nate. I look forward to actually making some really good changes and improvements down there. So good time for the LCPC.
Memorial Garden, Mr. Palmer.
We will be having a meeting next week. I think the topic is going to be fundraising.
I think we're going to have lots of reports next month. Budget, Mr. Palmer?
Nothing to report at this time. Waiting, I guess, more word from our business manager at our next work session, hopefully.
Mr. Albert, do you have anything to report on buildings and grounds? I don't have anybody else on the
We don't have a volunteer yet. We would really appreciate someone would be willing to take on that role with the foundation. So if everybody's willing to take that on, please let us know.
And Mr. Badger, anything extracurricular?
Nothing to report.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to item 9, the closing public comment section of the meeting. Again, residents, taxpayers, a 3-minute unpaused time frame to speak to us and about any issues related to the school district.
Yeah, I keep reading in the paper where you need teachers over at the high school or at any of the schools. And I heard some of the kids were had to go to the library or whatever, the class because they didn't have teachers. There's a couple of teachers that applied for jobs that are more than qualified. They have their doctorate, and they don't get any. Nobody says why. I don't know who's on that committee that picks these teachers, but I think they're wrong. And I know one of these people personally, and it's all hearsay when it was about him, and that's why you don't go by hearsay. And he would be a good addition. And I also would like to see, when you hire teachers, I'd like to see you give teachers that could be considered coaches consideration. So I think we only have 2 or 3 teachers in the system here that are actually coaching sports. These other coaches that are outside the school, they need some help in the school to know what's going on in that. So I'd like to see, you give a real lot of consideration to somebody, a teacher, that if you can coach and whatever. And yeah, I'd like to see for the basketball and wrestling, I know when I was in school, they listed the players' names up on a thing. And you knew who the players were, who was wrestling what weight, and so on. And they put the next match, when the next match is something, or the next basketball game. And I would like to see that. And I know somebody, Dale Omer, he used to do that stuff. He used to put the names up and all that. And, you know, it was work. Dale was a student then. And,
A few years ago, Jack, a few years ago.
Whatever. Then I have this little saying here, it says, hand sanitizers. Kills the germs and bacteria on your body, but your body needs to grow antibodies. So only use, I guess, hand sanitizers when necessary, not constantly. So I think, you know, some things what people think, boy, I'm going to knock a bed with, you know, I'm complete Mr. Clean and that. That isn't necessarily what you have to do to keep moving and that. So I don't know, but, you know, whatever. And, you know, nothing's, you know, proof or whatever. So that's it. Thank you.
It's always tough calling Jack, so I wish mine were more fun. I do want to start my comments by saying that I hope this board knows I will know personally animosity toward any of you. I hope everyone understands that as attorneys, our job is to service our clients zealously. I've been unable to comment on the comments made by certain individuals in the community, but I'd like to just clear the record. I know the board members know this, but I don't think the people in the community do. There was a case by the name of PP by LP versus North Allegheny School District. That's a slip copy case of 2021 WL 3782099. Judge Marilyn J. Coran of the Western District granted a preliminary and permanent injunction against North Allegheny School District on August 23rd of 2021. That is prior to the mask mandate. That was done because at a meeting that was held at the school board, they were intending to hire 2 individuals. Somebody made a motion to vote to eliminate masking. It was approved by a vote of 6-3. Parents filed a lawsuit to say that the proper procedure was not followed. There was not an agenda item. They were not given proper notice of hearing under the United States Constitution and Pennsylvania law. Similarly, after the order directive, the legal order we now know from Secretary of Email, August 31st, 2021, Judge Susan Paradise Baxter granted a temporary injunction to plaintiffs, again, similar to the plaintiffs that I represented in the case of WC et al., Warren County School District et al. Versus Warren County School District. I'll read these slowly so everybody can look them up themselves. That was issued on September 13, 2021. Again, she reversed the order of an individual who tried to remove masks from children on September 13, 2021 because they again made the argument that the proper policy wasn't followed. Judge Baxter found without any means of suspicion or any violation of the school code, they passed the mask removal ordinance. I had written originally in my brief, and I'll share this tonight for the public, for whatever it's worth. I intended to say this motion to dismiss that apparently the secret sauce that is needed to win a preliminary injunction is you have to put masks on kids, not taking them off. We now know, and even those on CNN that put it tonight are telling you, as I've been telling you for 1.5 to 2 years, as Dr. Fauci's known since he wrote his article in 2008, as everybody's known since the Spanish flu of 1918, cloth masks do not work to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. They do not work to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. They never have, they never will. Nor will the N95 masks, 1,000 times smaller. They know how big the masks are. They made them that small. It's a micron. You can watch a gentleman on YouTube take 5 blue masks, stack them simultaneously in space, and then blow out his glasses and still fog them up. Do you know why you can do that? Because the virus is an aerosol. It's an aerosol. So the cloth masks are never going to work. I'm trying to explain to you your logic is faulty. The masks will never work. There's no point to put them on. I don't know that the state's going to tell us, we'll keep it open, you keep the masks on.
far as I know, Governor Wolf's going to take one off January 17th anyway. I've not seen him cancel that season. And January 16th, the emergency ends. So we'll see if Javier Bakar re-ups an emergency or not nationwide. I just want to go on record, so everyone understands these motions were granted in Pennsylvania and Western District twice before and after Secretary Boone's order. Thank you.
I am once again asking to remove Corey Fleck from health and welfare. I believe that he is a danger to the children. The harassment that he has done to myself, to Rick Hauser, to Sharon, he's not qualified. And I believe he's a danger. I am in fear of that man. I want you to know that, sir. And I do not believe he's qualified to be on the health and welfare committee for our students. I'm asking that he be removed, and I would ask that you would take a vote on that tonight. And thank you for the common sense regarding masks.
I'm not going to talk about this. I think we did that one pretty good. A couple things I do want to bring up that have been talked about in the past that I think still need to be addressed. First of all, technology estimates in order to have proper board meetings. Has any research been done? Is there, I would love to hear some kind of information about, hey, I know that if there's a performance going on the stage, these mic issues that you're all having tonight wouldn't be happening. Why is it happening tonight? What does it take to get this streamed, to have all of you be able to speak clearly? The technology's out there. Estimates need to come in. A little due diligence on making that happen should happen. Communication improvements. I've talked about this in the past. I've emailed some board members and had expressed communication breakdown as far as roles and responsibilities. I still believe our superintendent needs to be the leader of this district. They need to provide the vision. They need to communicate the vision and communicate things from a whole district perspective. And that needs to occur, I don't know, monthly would be cool. Administrators, principals, there should be something coming out monthly about highlights of what kids are doing, what teachers are doing. Those things still aren't happening. We talked about it, I mentioned it months ago. I just don't know where things are with that, or if anyone's trying to help encourage administrators, teachers, superintendents to make sure that those communication procedures are being put in place. But it's up to you guys to spearhead that. I heard something earlier about pulling special ed teachers for subs. I've been a special education teacher for 20 years. I wouldn't change my profession for anything. I've been asked to cover a class. I won't. It is my job as a special education teacher to provide all of my students a free and appropriate public education. And at the moment I am pulled out of a classroom to cover another class, my students are denied that ability. I would hope Montoursville does not practice that. Last thing, and I'm not sure how kosher things are with this, but I'm kind of curious on how often as board members, have you been in a classroom? I know one of you are a teacher. I know one of you had mentioned about being in a classroom before. But years have changed, times have changed, classroom instruction has changed. You guys are voting on things that impact teachers and students at the ground level. I would hope, as a board member, you take an opportunity take a day off, take some time to go visit the school building, see what's going on in the schools, see what teachers are doing, give teachers a heads up, let them know, hey, I want to come see what you're doing, you're interested. If board members can show that they're interested in what teachers are doing, and can show students that, hey, I'm a board member and I'm interested in what you're doing, that speaks more volume than sitting up at a stage and making notes. Thank you.
Hi again, Cameron, I have the tiniest insight into this whole sound technology thing, in that my son is currently a theater sound technology major at Penn State. It's an entire major, you guys. It is more than just some one person sitting back there at that board, making the mics work, making you be able to communicate with someone who's online. It's complicated. And if you really want to do it right, you're going to have some sticker shock. Just be prepared for that. That's what you really want to do. Thanks.
Sorry, me again. Connie Jafer, Fountain for Trees. I don't talk about math anymore. I did want to express my appreciation for the program that we offered at later for the teaching kids sign language. It is such a fantastic time to teach children sign languages when they're in elementary school. I have a running mom who's deaf. My children will benefit greatly from that program, being able to communicate with a family member. I appreciate the district's focus on that, and I would actually suggest that maybe that becomes something that we can incorporate at a high school level maybe. It's a huge job opportunity for our kids going out to be interpreters. They are needed desperately. And if we can start that young in school, it is a huge opportunity for our kids. Thanks.
Okay, seeing anybody else approaching the podium, we'll close the public comment section now. And board, just a couple of items. The technology folks are working on the hybrid model, if we can call it that, for interactive board meetings. I think the next meeting, Sebastian, might you have something for us next meeting?
I'm hopeful.
Okay, all right. Let me just speak briefly to the Health and Safety Committee. The Health and Safety Committee has to meet every 6 months. It's part of the stipulations of ESSER's program. The committee in July was comprised of basically staff members. After the December meeting, there was interest by the board expressed to add public members because there really was only one public member, quasi-public member on the original committee. Interest was expressed in adding the public to it. That implies there may or may not be any particular qualifications, but it does give the general public opportunity to voice their opinion. It maybe doesn't amount to anything, maybe it can't be utilized, maybe it isn't permanent or whatever, but it gives the public an opportunity to comment. And the meeting on January 4th, we had 6 members of the public. Now, how did we get them? After that meeting on December, we made note of that publicly, and within a couple of days, we had emails from 6 people, only 6 people. 6 people saying, hey, I'd like to be on there. So they were invited to participate. That isn't the same as saying somebody's a member, okay? They were invited to participate, and they did participate. And generally speaking, it was fine, and there were some good thoughts, some good ideas, a little bit of overzealousness, I suppose, and that was understood. So those 6 members, and I would say, if I could characterize that generally, you had 3 members, and this was just random, and 6 people said, pick me. 3 of those folks were leaning one way, and 3 leaned the other way. That was just, we'll call it Providence, how's that? So anyway, the committee did review the health and safety plan from July. Most of the items were left as is. 3 of the items, I think I recall correctly, 3 of the items have revisions to them, and the goal really was, one, as the board wanted last time around, we wanted to retain local flexibility. And I stressed that during the meeting that, remember, give the district flexibility. Don't pin us down where it's unnecessary. And so the proposed draft plan will not pin us down. It did, it removed a couple of line items that were probably a hindrance. And again, I was hopefully satisfied with how it came out. So some of the, one of the members, and 1 or 2 of the members of the public were here tonight. I think they're gone. They served on that. So anyway, that draft will be out. You know, the committee, there were no rules associated with forming the committee when the ESER's regulation was formed. It didn't tell you how to do it, how you're supposed to operate, and as it is, we don't have those. So that's probably a task that the board is going to have to take on, is to say, what will be the operating procedures? Or we'll delegate that to administration and say, hey, come up with operating procedures for that committee. As it was, there wasn't any. So was it a mistake to say, well, 6 people want to go on to 6 members of the public, the board would want those members of the public on? Fine, let's do that. Did we know how things were going to turn out? No, we didn't. The superintendent also added the nursing team, the nursing staff to the committee, and that was a good move. They were really insightful and had a lot of information for us. So anyway, there you go. That's how that all transpired. 6 months from now, what we do, it will be something different for sure, and we'll be working on that over the next 6 months on how that committee will be, comprised, how it will be comprised, and also who will be invited to participate. And I'd like to continue to use that language, who will be invited to participate, because it is by invitation, and it is participation. It is in membership of the Waldo Club. I don't think we will look at it that way. So with that.
So Dave, are you saying that committee, as it was on January 4th, has no additional planned meetings, that basically it was a one and done, and then
No, Esther said you're going to meet again and you're going to revise the plan in 6 months.
Right, but 6 months of membership can be completely different.
It could be. It could be, yeah. We've got to work with administration to say what we're going to do in 6 months from now. But we need to do it starting in about 3 months at most. So, all right. Anything else, board?
Yeah, I have something, Mr. Show. I think everybody knows by now that people contact me, especially people in my region, and I keep in close contact with them. And it's not always bad things that they call me about. So I want to share something with everybody and give kudos to one of our administrators, and that would be Mr. Youngkin, because I got calls of Mr. Youngkin outside on Monday helping the maintenance department clear sidewalks at the valley. And it was so great to hear people call me and say, I can't believe we have somebody to come out of the office. It's great to see him out there. So I think he needs to
Thank you, Will. Okay, board, if you have nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion, we have a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Albert, we adjourn. Sorry.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry. These chairs are not comfortable. No. They're a lot more comfortable. What is the boardroom? Yeah. They're more ergonomic. Yeah, they're cushioned too.